Welcome to Bloom Today. We have an angelic show for you. It will be much ado about pending. We talk about internal and external brokenness and how you can heal
so that you can use the fertilizer of your past to bloom today. Welcome, everybody. We are so excited to be talking about much ado about pending.
Pending. Not about nothing. Much ado about
nothing.
Much ado about pending. Dun, dun, dun. Those things that are super suspenseful in our lives. It's just pending. Like when you're uploading something or you're downloading something from the internet and you just get that circle.
The circle of death.
Not of death, just
the slow one.
The slow circle, or that bar that's slowly loading, and the longer you wait, the more you get frustrated and it's not meeting my expectations. I need something now. And you just can't handle that. You've never had that, right? You're
pending. What are you talking about?
Pending.
Yeah, like the fact that right now I have no idea where I will be living next month. Pending. That it's been pending for like 4 months straight now. And
yeah, just pending some more.
That, 3 boys, and start getting boxes to pack, and then, oh no, don't pack yet, and maybe you're gonna move, maybe you're not, where are you going, which state are you gonna be in, what school district are the kids gonna be in, oh yeah, and right now school's about to start, and well, maybe start, because we don't even know that. That's pending right now. So with all of it, it is looking at it from, can I focus on the control that I feel like I want?
Oh yeah.
Homeschool or public school? Is it going to be which state? All these things. And I want to be able to do something about it and fix it and make it a thing and
get it done, get it off your list.
Right. And then it's, you're going to have a TV show or not? And are you going to be on one set or a different one? And which kitchen are we going to get to be in? There's so many details, and that's all in the last week. So
will be our guests even. Yes. Sometimes changes from day to day.
So it's thinking through, and those, in the grand scheme of things, are the easier pendings. But there can be some really heavy, deep, meaningful, life-altering things that can be pending. And it can feel like you can't even have the motivation to get out of bed when the pending thing is super dark and difficult.
Absolutely.
And so thinking through how those times, I just want to know. Even if it's horrible and bad and whatever, I just want to know, because I feel like I can do something about it if I actually know. But not knowing, do you like not knowing?
Oh yeah, it's my favorite thing. Totally just whatever, it's fine. I don't have to know. No, I mean, when you're talking there, it reminded me of when I was waiting to know what my blood alcohol was after I got pulled over in 2011. So I got pulled over and I had been drinking, obviously, and so I was not allowed to take a breathalyzer because they did not have. The police officer didn't have a breathalyzer test on him. So he had to take me to the hospital where I had my blood drawn.
Wow.
And then I went in for booking. So we didn't even know what the result was. It was just, well, we'll see, even if you have a DUI whenever you get the results. And
that's kind of a big pending.
That was a big pending. Because I had no idea as far as what that would look like at all. I mean, I was pretty sure I was gonna
be in trouble.
Be in trouble, but I had no idea as far as how far that was, and then I didn't know which date would be my court date, so I wasn't gonna find out until my court date, and then my court date got pushed back from April to May, and so I would, okay, and then you get there, and then there's still this pending because you're not sure. Sometimes the police officer doesn't show up with your results,
and then you get off, right?
No. No, then you go back again. And so for me, it was just this, And I just remember fasting and praying and asking God for mercy and mercy and mercy. Like, please just give me mercy with this. Please just give me mercy. But I didn't sleep very well, obviously, for a few months until I had the court date and found out what my blood alcohol level was.
Did you get your sentencing right away, or did you still have to wait for that?
No, I had it right away.
That was a help. Hey,
yeah,
it wasn't pending.
Something was efficient. That's fantastic. And we got some strings pulled with my lawyer, so that weekend was the weekend that I could go and do my 48 hours in jail, which usually you cannot go. I think it was like a Monday or Tuesday was my court date, and by Friday I was able to go because I was just so done.
You want to get it over
I just wanted to get
yeah.
it over with and just get on with my life and start the healing process, because it felt like I could not heal or process it correctly until
you had answers.
I had answers. It was done, and I didn't have to worry about what's it going to be like in jail and all of those things. And can I bring my arm? Can I not bring my arm? And are there scary people there? Am I going to survive this? I have no idea. So it wears you down, emotionally, physically. It's all connected. Spiritually, it weighs you down because you're not sure.
Did they let you keep your arm?
They did. Surprisingly.
Okay, I just needed to know that.
They and I wore it. Because
that gave
armed
you
and dangerous, I guess, was
I was going to say, now you actually had a weapon in jail. That's pretty impressive.
I was not a violent offender, so
okay.
I think it was.
They let you be armed and dangerous.
Yes, yeah. Somehow it was nice of them. It was kind, because for me it is something that I wear every day. So
right.
It was something familiar to me. It was actually more comforting to
sure.
be able to know, hey, I've got two hands, rather than I'm already at a disadvantage.
Right, totally.
Right.
And so you made it through and could start all of the rest of what came with walking that out, but which was worse, the actually living it out or the unknown pending part?
The unknown pending part by far was the worst, because once you are done with, my sentence, once I was done with my sentence, then it was just, I have a year of probation, and there's an end date.
Right.
So even though that end date is upcoming, I know where that end is. And so there's a piece of understanding and expectation there that I can rest, because I don't have to move on a dime or change my thinking or my processing.
Right. And then God used that. He walked you through it. Like, I'm super grateful he did.
Me too.
Because we wouldn't be in a recovery and helping people and all that kind of stuff. And we would probably never have met or done any of this if you hadn't had that brokenness that led you on a path toward healing that got us connected. And I came at that from such a totally different place, because my addictions were all the good ones. They were not, the chemicals. I say good ones because, workaholism is a good addiction. Like, seriously. It can destroy your life and your health and your family, but, I just laugh because there's the socially acceptable things and then the ones that aren't, but they're all destructive.
Absolutely.
But that
too much of anything is still too much.
Yes. And I love the fact that as we trust God during those pending things, then sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes we do end up with the answers, and we do end up with the next steps. And then we look back and we have a much better view for exactly why we needed to walk through that season, what benefit came out of it, what God did through it. And I know in the dark parts where it's not just pending, like whether I'm moving or not, because that's not necessarily dark, that's just unknown.
Right.
But when it's a really dark thing and really difficult thing that's pending, it is really helpful to know you can go to God and have that peace despite.
Right.
That he's there for you even in the darkness and the unknown and the painful.
Yeah. And what that reminds me of now, when I'm going through something that's pending and I start to get that anxious feeling in my stomach and all of my muscles start tensing up and I want to, just do that. It reminds me, okay, the same amount of time is going to pass from here until I know. And my clenching and my not trusting God in that space is my choice. Right. And I can trust him, and I can be at peace during that time and just say, okay, God, you've got it. And I am going to rest in you as much as I humanly can.
Right.
And just rest and say, when we get there, we get there. And I trust that you'll have answers every step of the way. But until then, I have the choice to rest in him.
So you just take it slow.
Yes, absolutely. Surrender, listen, obey, and worship. Mm-hmm. And we have a guest today that is going to really illustrate the point of pending and resting in God and relying on him to come through with the answers.
Is it an angelic guest?
Oh, it's the fitness angel.
I know. Actually angelic.
Actually angelic.
She's amazing.
Yes, Angel Fox. She's the fitness angel, and she's amazing. And I can't wait to share with you all her amazing story. Angels, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited and just humbled, really, really humbled that your whole story is fantastic and amazing, but the brokenness and the struggles that you're sharing with us today are so deep and so personal that I'm really thankful that you're sharing with our audience. I think it's really going to touch them.
Thank you. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. So we've been talking about pending. And how did that come about in your story? How did that really put a point on that for us in your mind?
Right. Well, I have lots of struggles, but thank God he was with me through them all.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the hardest one, and when you asked me to speak, and this is to share brokenness and how God touched you. This was the darkest point of my life.
And you had plenty of other dark stuff too, so
yes.
Just not to just gloss this over,
right.
But you have such a story of victory in so many areas of difficulty. So I just want to say that up front. Yeah. We're going to focus on one area because obviously we don't have time to go through all of it, but just super amazed at what you have been through and what God's brought you through, and who you are as a person is absolutely amazing. So
thank you.
I'll let you go back to your story.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. The part I don't share a lot is what we're going to talk about today. And it's the story, really my mom's story. Because we were best friends. She had me at a young age, and a lot of my growing up was just me and her. And super close, more like sisters and best friends. And the day she went missing, my heart just sunk in my gut. I just knew this is not good. Because she had a lot of struggles in her life, alcoholism being one of them. Yeah. But I knew if she ever wanted to leave any situation she was in, she would come to me, because we were like that.
And she would have let you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So she wouldn't have just disappeared and not told you what was happening.
Right.
Exactly. So talk about pending.
Yeah.
I had about a month and a half of not knowing.
Gosh.
Going to the news, just doing my own search, talking to investigators, really leaning on the justice system for help. And
that's supposed to be the people that you go to depend on in that time. Yeah.
Right. So pending, that was hard. Very hard.
Yeah.
But
were you a Christian during that time as well?
Yes. Okay. And I often just wonder, how do people make it through these things without God?
I have no idea. I literally don't know.
I don't know, yeah.
Right. But I actually became a Christian in my early 20s. And my husband, who is listening right now, actually shared Christ with me.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Wonderful.
Yeah, before we were married.
Yeah.
And my mom had gotten saved just before that at one of her rehabs.
Praise God.
Praise God. And it was called the Home of Grace. I'll never forget it.
Oh.
So God was with me for sure. And he was with her, and I know he was, and he gave me a beautiful picture. But that waiting period was so hard, because I wanted truth, truth and justice. And that's what I clung to in his word, looking up everything on truth and justice. And
so when they found her, what did they find out had happened to her?
Right. Well, they had, the case started in Alabama, and they actually found her right over the state line in Florida. And she had been murdered.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you.
Because that's a hard thing to find out, but at least then you had the beginning of answers, but that didn't stop the pending, did it?
Oh, no. Because the detectives, what they discovered is it was one of two people. And so I was on it. Like, this was my mama. I was her only child. I was her only advocate.
Right.
And I just remember just clinging to Jesus. And when I actually got the word that they found her, I just collapsed. I literally just collapsed.
Yeah.
And because I had that little hope, I had that little bit of hope.
Right.
She's going to be okay. Something crazy's happened, because she was one of those wild and crazy women.
Right.
And I just had that little hope, but really deep down, the Holy Spirit was preparing me. And I just knew that. So, praying that I could walk in forgiveness and healing and all that, but all that time, the not knowing.
Yeah.
How do you forgive when you don't know who did it? And what
You
did
don't
they
know
do
who
to
to
her?
forgive, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And are you okay with sharing who the two guys were that...
Were the suspects?
The
yes,
suspects?
Yes. My dad was one of them, Larry. And he and my mom had a very crazy on again, off again relationship all. And when he left her when I was about 21 for another woman,
Okay.
she, fell apart, collapsed. That's when her rehab started. And she married a man she met in rehab, which they say is not a good thing to do. Trying to get sober together and find Jesus together and all that. But she was last seen with Larry and Dwight.
So your stepdad and your dad.
Yes.
And so
Wow.
either answer was going to be hard.
Right.
But obviously your own dad would be the hardest answer, but you didn't know. How long, where did it go as far as finding anything out on that?
Right. Well, the crazy thing was, I just knew in my gut from all the talking and all the investigating, I knew it was Larry. I knew it was my dad. I just knew, but I still needed that confirmation.
Wow.
And the day after she went missing, her husband went to rehab. So he checked out.
Wow.
Yes. So 4 years of praying, 4 years of clinging to God.
4 years. Wow.
Yes.
That's a lot of pending
Yeah.
on something that's so deeply painful and difficult.
Yes, my deepest pain. We actually left we didn't want to live in either state.
I understand that.
We were like, we have to have a new beginning, and we literally got off the internet and said, where's a good place to raise kids? Because I had a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old at the time.
Wow.
So I think what helped me keep my sanity, besides staying glued to Jesus, was knowing I got to be mama.
Right.
I got to be wife. And I knew my mom would want that more than anything.
You had a purpose
Yeah.
to move forward.
Yeah.
Even though there was something that really was holding you back emotionally, at least, you had a purpose to move forward.
Right.
Gosh.
And I know God gives that to everybody in their own way. Yeah.
He does.
Yeah. But to answer your question, one day I was vacuuming the house, just normal, kids at school, and I get a phone call from a distant cousin on Larry's side. Said, Angel, nobody was going to even tell you, but Larry had a horrible accident, and he's brain dead. And they're actually taking him off life support. And I thought you would want to know. Because when I had my suspicions it was him through various conversations, I had cut him and the whole family off because I needed those boundaries. You
needed space.
I needed everything.
That sounds like a very healthy decision for where you were. Yeah.
And that's one big thing I've learned throughout this is forgiveness and trust are two totally different things.
Very different.
Totally
Yes.
different.
Yes.
So I had to disassociate. And when I got that call, of course, I dropped the vacuum cleaner and I just started praying in the Spirit. It's like the Holy Spirit just took over and I knew I'm going to find out. After 4 years, I'm going to find out. I just knew it. Because I didn't hear he's on death, he's dying. I just knew this is an opportunity. I'm going to find out what happened.
Wow.
So called my husband. He was at a doctor's appointment. He immediately came home. I got a neighbor to take care of my kids, and we took off 5 hours later, got to the hospital in Georgia. And I had to walk through ICU waiting room, and it was like all his family was there.
Oh.
But I was on a mission. When you're on a mission, you don't see anything to the right, anything to the left. I walked straight through. The neurologist wanted to talk to me before I went in. And he said, he's brain dead. You really need to let him go. They didn't know he had a daughter, so they couldn't release him. Well, actually, this is the crazy part.
Wow.
When I called after vacuuming and got that message, I called the hospital, and the nurse said, we cannot take him off life support. He's down to 11 breaths a minute. He's going to pass any time now. And I was like, nope, let me talk to somebody else. And she got me her head nurse, and she said, well, we did not know he had a daughter, so we will take this as an order.
Right, because he didn't have a wife anymore, and so you would have been his next of kin.
Exactly.
Right.
So she's like, okay, we can't promise anything. 5 hours later, we got there, and he says, there's no hope. But I'm like, well, I got some things to say. I was on mission. I had a tape recorder in my purse. Yep. I really was there to find out, did you kill my mother? And I was angry and upset. And
understandably so.
Yeah, so I go in there. I grab his hand. He's wrapped from head to toe. They had like a gallon jug of milk, half of it filled with blood from his brain. And they said, there's no hope. There's no hope here.
And you told me something about he was about to leave his body, and what happened with that?
Yes. Well, first I grabbed his hand and I screamed, did you kill Mama? I didn't care who was around. My husband was like, oh my Lord, here we go again. But I just knew I had to find out. And of course he didn't do anything. He's just laying there. But I still stayed, still expecting something. Right. I knew God was involved. And my cousin came in that I had grown up with, my favorite cousin. And the way Larry was laying in the bed, his feet were here, head here, my husband sitting in a chair with all the machines. So we're at his feet and we're just holding hands praying, just standing next to the bed praying, my cousin and I. And I'm praying for the Lord, forgive him, speak to him. And it was like a supernatural kind of forgiveness, a softness towards my father. But inside, I have my tape recorder and my motive is to find out what he did. So it was kind of a crazy situation. And I know God will use anything in any situation. So while we're praying, my eyes are closed, I feel his spirit leaving. I'm like, no. And I turned to his face and I literally said, you get back in your body now. It is not time for you to die. And you would have thought like angels came out or something. But, that's not the way it happened. Nothing happened. But I had, again, that sense of peace that I did the right thing. It was another Holy Spirit moment. And so we go back to our hotel, my husband and I. We're going to stay that night. And I'm like, okay, I feel like God has somehow let me know he did this. And it's supernaturally, I could forgive him.
But the story was different the next day.
Right. So I go and I'm going to tell the neurologist, okay, you can allow him to be, off, ready for him to go. And he's like, I can't explain it. I don't know what happened, but he's showing signs of life.
So he ended up living not just then, but he lived then for a while later, and then you end up going back again and talking to him, and I know something happened right then that changed things and you started to get some kind of answer, right?
Yes.
Because I wish we had time to go into all of it because it's so cool to know how God orchestrated it. Yes. But what happened when you saw him again and he talked to you?
He was a lot of little miracles, like you said, a lot of little miracles. But he was in a wheelchair at the time, and he pulled up next to me, and he had those Phil Newman, that's somebody I know, Paul Newman eyes, those blue eyes, and that used to terrify me. And he said, the man who put your mother in that ditch loved her, and that was my shirt under her. Wow. And there's a lot about that story from other situations, but I said, well, what happened to Dwight? Because here I am. I'm still wanting answers. I'm still wanting answers.
Right. And that's your stepfather?
Yes.
Okay.
And he said, oh, he wasn't involved. He didn't know what was going on. He was drunk. So there was my answer.
Right.
Through all the investigations, they knew it was one of them. They were last 3 seen together. That was my answer. And I know God did that for me.
And even though finding out that your dad killed your mom is even more devastating, because then it wasn't a maybe, it was real, and you would have to process and grieve and heal in that space. Having something to process and heal, knowing that forgiving him was the point, that you were doing that and everything. Did that resolution in that area, did you feel like God gave you that because he loved you and was helping you in it?
God did it for me, right. But I do feel like, and I learned this in a Bible study, forgiveness. It's like, you can forgive, you forgive by faith, could call it supernatural, whatever. But it's like a bruise. I think it was Beth Moore that said this. It's like a bruise. You can forget about it, but then you bump into it again. And it hurts. And it's layers. But the bruise goes away over time. And you do feel better and more confident. And now I'm at the place where I know my mama, she forgave anybody anytime. Right. She was the one rescuing dogs off the street, loves everybody. Yeah. Anyway, I know she would want me to walk in forgiveness and love. And now I can see my dad as that little hurt boy.
Yes.
Because of his wounds. Right. He was the youngest of 7 and dysfunctional and poor, and the life of crime came easy for him.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, God did it all, and he's with me, and I know he's got my mama praying for me and everything else.
The thing is, you just radiate joy.
Yes.
And the subject we're talking about is so difficult and painful, and the drama of it being drawn out so long and so much confusion and never, it's not some stranger guy that might have murdered her. It's, you're having to go between two people that were family, in this whole mess. And to me, finding that that's a part of your story when my experience with you has always been life and joy and light and beauty and all these things. It's just amazing that you have come out of that and let God redeem it, and your heart for other people and your heart to use this story, which is difficult, to let people know that if they're hurting and broken in these areas or pending or struggling like that God can meet them in that is amazing.
And I love that you use this forward in your own ministry.
Yes.
And you actually, you're the fitness angel, so you have dance parties.
Yes.
And including have had one for Bloom in the Dark as well, where you are raising money for ministries that would be helping women like your mother. And people like your mother who are needing that help. Domestic violence has been one on your heart as well. And that's incredible to me. And I love that you bring her legacy forward and you honor her so beautifully.
Through this, yes.
Through this, yes. And through dance as well.
Well, she taught me how to dance. I got my moves from my mama.
That is awesome. That is really awesome.
That's fantastic. Well, Angel, thank you so much for coming in and sharing such a beautiful story and such a piece of your heart. I love to watch how God weaves so personally our stories and how he allows us to find resolution where there seems none. So thank you for sharing.
And that was a way that you got to actually do what we do.
Right.
And that is to actually use the fertilizer of our past to bloom today.